All right, I think we're live.
Welcome, everyone, to our webinar today on finding relief through understanding panic, PTSD, and the power of your breath. My name's Natasha, and I will be taking us through everything today. I have a background as a licensed professional counselor with working in a variety of different treatment populations. And also today we have joining us Linnell, our Associate Director of Member Marketing, and Kate, our Director of Care Operations, who will both kind of help make sure the slides are going smoothly and monitor the chat for any questions as we go through. Um, Ultimately, we will be talking about panic attacks, PTSD, and how Freespira can help you or someone that you love find relief. And we will have questions at the end of our meeting today. And feel free to drop them in the chat if any questions come through as we go. So let's get started um, with what are panic attacks? So, panic attacks can feel overwhelming, like your body is out of control. Panic attacks are technically defined as having four or more of the following symptoms, and sometimes we have limited symptom attacks where we still have a combination of some of these symptoms and they are equally as distressing. You may feel short of breath, dizzy, like your heart is racing, and these symptoms can be very real and can be incredibly frightening, especially when they come on without warning. Um, and now that we have a slightly deeper understanding of what panic attacks can look like, I'd like to touch on PTSD a little bit more. So, PTSD can PTSD or post-traumatic stress disorder can develop after experiencing or witnessing a traumatic event. It often includes flashbacks, nightmares, and a constant sense of danger. Sometimes, along with those nightmares and flashbacks, it can impact mood, like negative mood and thinking, feelings of guilt, shame, loss, or even avoidance, avoiding people, places, things um, uh, that might trigger symptoms. And so it can be valuable to or I'm sorry. And so, along with some of those things, it can impact sleep issues and irritability. And it's important to note that it's not just in your head, it's a very real condition that impacts your nervous system, your daily life, your functioning, your relationships. And um, on the next slide, Linnell, I think we're still on the panic attack slide, sorry, on why traditional treatments aren't enough or always enough. So uh, to manage panic and PTSD, we often go through therapy, medication management, which are incredibly helpful. And there is still a benefit to having additional tools and resources to help us manage the symptoms associated with these diagnoses. Um, and so that's where Free Spirit can come in. Free Spirit is an adjunctive treatment to therapy and medication management. So it can be really complementary to other treatments that you're already engaging or thinking about engaging in. And tools like Freespira offer a targeted non-drug approach because we're ultimately retraining the body's response. And having alternative tools in addition to support therapy and medication management can lead to faster, long-lasting relief. Um, and so diving into Freespira more specifically. Freespira is a drug-free, FDA-cleared treatment for panic attacks and PTSD symptoms. It works by retraining our breathing to restore healthy CO2 levels, that we're treating the root cause and not just the symptoms associated with it. This treatment is ideal for those of us with panic attacks and PTSD, those of us still struggling despite medication management and therapy, and we're approved for teens and adults ages 13 plus seeking a lasting, non-invasive solution. And let's dive into how Freespira works a little bit more specifically. So when we experience panic, anxiety, PTSD, anything along those lines, our breathing becomes dysregulated. And what's happening on a deeper level is we don't exhale the appropriate amount of carbon dioxide, CO2. It's often we have really low CO2 levels, which actually triggers the fight or flight response in the body. It makes our nervous system dysregulated, which can trigger those panic or PTSD-like symptoms, and it continues to turn into this vicious cycle. And so Freespira ultimately helps you retrain how you breathe through building muscle memory and regulating those CO2 levels to regulate the nervous system by ensuring that the fight or flight response activates when it really needs to be activated rather than being stuck in that cycle all the time, thus reducing, if not eliminating, any symptoms that you may be experiencing. And it's based on science, and it really, really does work to help your body reset. So, I'd like to really dive into the treatment itself and what that can look like. On your screen, you'll see some graphs, but I'd like to give some context first. So, when you or someone that you know initially enrolls in treatment, they will get everything delivered to their front door. And when you open up the box that gets delivered to your front door, you will have a tablet inside where you will be seeing these graphs displayed through our Freespira app on here. And you will also receive a sensor module that looks something like this, and you will have a nasal cannula attached to it. And during that first appointment, you would put it on like so. And basically what happens is when you are breathing, you exhale into this nasal cannula, and this goes, your air, your breath, exhaled breath goes through this, gets detected by the sensor. And then the sensor will basically communicate to the tablet to represent how you're breathing in real time during your breathing sessions, which is where this graph comes in. Because during each of your breathing sessions, since it's tracking how you're breathing, and more specifically, it tracks respiration rate and CO2 levels. And so I'd like to explain the graph on the screen more specifically. When at the bottom of the graph, you'll notice this green shaded area and some green lines kind of moving along. That is tracking our respiration rate. And so as you're pacing your breathing, those lines will start to stabilize as you gain control over the pace of your breathing. And the top of the graph in the blue shaded area with the blue lines moving around, that is tracking CO2 levels. And oftentimes, CO2 levels will be really, really low when you get started with treatment. And so looking at the first graph representing the first session on your screen, that's why the lines look like they're all over the place, because our breathing is likely dysregulated when we get started with treatment. And so as we go through, we are guided entirely through the breathing session. It tells us exactly what to do and how to do it to, over time, stabilize our breath. Also, when we are focusing on our breathing, let me break down the structure of the breathing session. So the sessions are 17 minutes in length, and they're broken up into three main parts. The first 2 minutes of the breathing session, you'll be breathing as normally as possible. That way we get a baseline of how we breathe normally before we begin to alter anything. We can also see muscle memory being built up over time by examining that throughout the course of treatment. The middle section is 10 minutes long, and the person in treatment will be pacing their breathing along to the sound of tones, guiding everything. And so that middle section, 10 minutes, pacing along with the tones. And then the final 5 minutes is actually silent, and the breathing session wants you to breathe as if you were still listening to the tones from that middle section, but it's silent so that we can help on working build your muscle memory over the course of treatment without having to rely on the sound every time you want to practice the breathing skill. And again, in combination, practicing consistently over time, we build that muscle memory, gain control of our breathing, and these lines stabilize more and more so that by the final week of treatment, our graph looks similar to the second graph on the screen under the final session.
Natasha, it looks like we have someone with their hand up. They have a question.
Oh, great.
Happy to answer real time.
Wonderful. Let's do it.
If it was a mistake, then we certainly can just have you put it in the chat or the Q&A section at the bottom of your screen. You should see an icon with a question mark. You're happy if you would prefer to not ask live, you can actually ask in the chat as well. All right, well.
Do you want to share? It looks like Katie asked a question too, and I see that you answered in the chat. Do you want to share that now in case others are interested, or do you want to wait until we're in the Q&A section?
Yeah, we certainly can share that. Katie, thank you for the question, Katie. You asked, what if I don't have a formal diagnosis for PTSD? Can I still try Freespira? And yes, Freespira is FDA cleared for panic disorder and PTSD, but many people who experience anxiety, panic attacks, stress-regulated symptoms, or breathing dysregulation can benefit even without a formal diagnosis. We certainly can talk you through what that process would look like as we, if you have any specific questions to ask. So feel free to, if that answers your question, great. If not, then we can certainly provide some more context and detail.
Teresa, I'm sorry. I think you had raised your hand earlier and I've given you the ability. We had everyone muted. I'm so sorry. Did you have a question that you wanted to share? Or if not, you can ignore me, or what Kate said, you can also put it in the chat too. Okay. Go ahead. Continue, Natasha.
Well, thank you for those questions so far. And again, if other questions come up, feel free to, post them in the chat, raise your hand, and we'll kind of take a pause to give you the floor to answer or to ask those questions. So I kind of just reviewed what a lot of those breathing sessions can look like kind of as you're practicing the breathing sessions in real time. I also think it's important to validate, because at the end of the day, during treatment, we're teaching you the system is teaching you how to stabilize your breathing. And I think it can be really easy for perfectionism to kick in sometimes. And so I always lean into the mantra of progress, not perfection, as we go through treatment. And that reminder that the graphs, because they're representing your breathing in real time, can often look really messy sometimes and can actually vary day to day sometimes, because if we're actively being impacted by our environment, that's going to be represented on the graph. But again, as we get farther through treatment, you regain control over that. And so even if things start to feel a little activating, we have a lot more control over our breath, and you'll see that represented on the graph too. But now from here, we can shift into talking about the program structure as a whole. And so it's a 4-week program, a 28-day system rental where you'll be doing 2 17-minute breathing sessions every day for the 28 days. And it focuses on, again, retraining our breathing to stabilize those CO2 levels, and the skill progressively builds week by week. And so, like I said before, progress, not perfection, because it's like building a brand new skill for the first time. So it's very normal to feel like you're not really sure what you're doing, but that will improve over time as you go through. And the really convenient piece about treatment is that it's completely at-home use. Everything is delivered to your front door. Any appointments are virtual. And so essentially, once you have an initial consultation to determine your eligibility for treatment, and that first appointment is scheduled, you receive that box, you open it up, and just kind of wait until that first appointment to actually set things up. Because, like I said, you'll have support throughout. So a care specialist will work with you or any loved ones that you might have on the call as well for extra support to help you understand exactly how to use the system, educate you on how to use it, and encourage you as we go through treatment. And ultimately, though, you'll have that initial orientation appointment where it goes over how to set everything up in great detail with a few breathing tips, and then weekly check-ins that, again, are virtual to ensure your success through treatment, answer any questions as they come up, and give you tips and tricks on the breathing as we go through. And through all of that, you'll build a daily routine without even having to leave your home. But again, since this is portable, another convenient piece is that if you have any travel plans during treatment, you can take this with you. If you have a really busy work schedule and you need to squeeze this in on your lunch breaks, you can take this to work with you. So you can really mold this in a way that is going to work best for your life and your structure to get the best support throughout. And so now that we've talked, oh,
It
sorry,
looks
go
like
ahead, Leanne.
I'm so sorry. We have another question.
Oh,
You
yay.
guys want to answer in real time?
Yeah, that's a great question. It says, do I have to do the sessions at the same time every day?
Mm. Great question. No, you do not have to do the sessions at the same time. So the main timing requirement is separating the sessions by 6 hours at a minimum in between, but you can do it more than 6 hours apart, and it can be different times each day, whatever works best with your schedule. And like I mentioned before, the progress, not perfection piece, if anything happens, even if you can only squeeze one session in for the day, that is okay in the grand scheme of things, as long as we're still generally building a routine around it.
And it is portable, so if you are traveling or outside of your home, you can do your sessions whenever, as Natasha mentioned, which is convenient for you.
Exactly, exactly. Thank you for those questions. Um, Well, I don't think I see any other questions coming up in the chat so far. And so let's dive into just patient testimonials and some success stories. So on your screen, there's a few quotes from real patients that have found relief through treatment. And so you're welcome to kind of read through those. But I'd like to share a story of a patient that I worked with, I think within the first 6 months of working at Freespira, that has really stuck with me over the years, and I think is a real testament to how impactful this treatment can really be. And so this patient had entered treatment with a PTSD and panic diagnosis resulting from a really severe car accident. And ultimately, that car accident led to this patient not feeling like they could drive or even be a passenger in a car without experience panic symptoms, and ultimately led to this person not driving for about 5 or 6 years prior to entering treatment. And so as we went through treatment, I always like to mention the importance of the way our brain creates associations with a variety of different things. And so during the first week of treatment, this patient decided to do breathing sessions while sitting in her car, not driving to be clear, but just sitting in the car stationary, just to get used to practicing the breathing while being in a car. And over the course of that week, it started to become less and less distressing to even be in the car. And over time, the first thought when she would go into the car, instead of it being, I'm unsafe, the first thought was, oh, it's time to practice my breathing. And so that was week one. By week two, because things were going smoothly, this person decided, you know what, let me actually turn on the car, not during the breathing sessions, just to be clear, but turn on the car and back in and out of the driveway. And she was able to successfully do that without experiencing physical symptoms. The first couple days, it was a little anxiety inducing, which is valid because it's the first time she had driven a car in any capacity in years. But she was able to drive in and out of the driveway with no physical symptoms. By week three, because that went well, she was able to drive around her neighborhood without any physical symptoms. And by the final week of treatment, I remember our last check-in together. She was ecstatic because she was able to drive to a friend's house for the first time in years without experiencing any symptoms. And it, she said it felt like she got her life back, and especially because driving is such a big part of our day-to-day living. And so I just really wanted to share that success story because I think, again, it's a huge testament to just how real people find hope through Freespira. And so just figured I'd share that. Um, from here, we can go to the next slide and just kind of talk about what to expect in getting started with Freespira. So there is a symptom quiz that you can take as it's a quick self-assessment. We'll post it at the on one of our last slides if you're curious sooner, but it is on our website. And once you determine if Freespira is feeling right for you, there's an eligibility check where we check for insurance coverage, any out-of-pocket costs or expenses. That way there's absolutely no surprises and you know what you're getting into. Once all of that is set up and coordinated, the device is shipped directly to your home, and all of your future appointments, that orientation and future check-in appointments are scheduled. That way you know exactly what your care plan is going to look like. And then, of course, you'll be working with a care specialist during that initial orientation to help you set everything up and ensure success throughout treatment by meeting weekly to answer any questions as they come up and provide feedback and support on the device. And so ultimately, it's just really simple. Now we can shift to any additional questions. I'd love to hold space. So if you have any questions about panic, PTSD, Freespira, feel free to drop them in the chat and we can answer some.
We do have some questions that were kind of sent ahead, so we can maybe you can answer some of those. How do I need a referral from my doctor or my therapist?
Great question. So you do not need a referral right away. You can sign up directly through our website or through calling our phone number. I will say if you are a veteran or using VA benefits or TRICARE benefits, you'll need a referral from your provider. But if you have any questions around how to navigate that, you can still call us first and we'll walk you through exactly what to do and how to navigate things.
Perfect. One of the attendees asks, how quickly does Freespira work?
Great question. And I will say that really does vary person to person. It varies on severity of your symptoms and consistency of the breathing sessions. I've had some people find benefit within the first week of treatment, and I've had other people kind of start to really notice those significant benefits closer to the third week of treatment. And so, again, it can really vary person to person, but great question.
Excellent. Amy's asking, can you provide a ballpark of what the cost to patient generally looks like after insurance coverage?
That can also really vary depending on insurance coverage, depending on if we have deductibles or anything like that. But ultimately, you can use your HSA or FSA, and we also offer zero interest payment plans designed to fit your financial needs.
Absolutely. Thank you. Do I need to take any medicine with this? Is another question.
Freespira is completely drug-free, and worth noting, if you already take medications to manage your symptoms, please continue to take your medications and follow recommendations given by your provider. And yeah, but Freespira itself is medication-free.
Excellent. Excellent.
Any other questions coming through so far?
Not that are coming through the Q&A session. Another one of the pre-submitted questions was, how is this different from other breathing exercises?
Great question. So basically, our FDA clearance really sets us apart to other breathing exercises, and because our FDA clearance is specifically for panic and PTSD. I also think it's worth noting that, it's not that we're saying other breathing techniques are bad or wrong for you. This is just an alternative breathing technique that's specifically targeted for panic and PTSD symptoms.
And it gives real-time feedback. Right, and I don't want to speak incorrectly, but it gives real-time feedback, right? So that users can tell where they need to correct and manage their progress over time.
Exactly, exactly. Yes, that management of real-time feedback makes a huge difference because again, you can see what you're doing in real time and how when you adjust your breathing, it impacts, the graphs and vice versa, in real time.
On that note, Natasha, can you speak to how long the symptom relief lasts after treatment?
Hmm. Great question. Uh, this really does last a long time. So people report added benefits up to a year after treatment. I like to think of treatment as like building the foundation of regulating your nervous system, and continuing to practice this skill is like building the house and the foundation after treatment. So it really has long, long lasting benefits. And yeah.
And then, do you want to talk about the tones, the lifetime tone support?
Great question, sir. Or great point. So once treatment is over, basically we do have a web-based app that we give patients access to. That way, even though it won't be tracking your breathing, it's a way to keep listening to the tone since that's what you learn to practice with. That way, if you ever feel like you need a more structured practice once treatment is over, as a way to maintain that habit for yourself, you'll have a web-based app that you'll have access to, and it's a lifetime benefit. So, it could be 3 years down the road after treatment has been completed, and you can still be using that app to support yourself.
Excellent. There is another question that came out of that. Are there any side effects?
Great question. Sometimes people experience lightheadedness, dizziness, drowsiness, and this air hunger feeling. Um, and it's worth noting that those side effects really only take place during the breathing sessions. And it's also because we're changing how you breathe fairly quickly in the grand scheme of things. But those are not long-lasting side effects. And so I always say your comfort is more important. So practice the skill. If those side effects start to come up, listen to your body and then take a couple of regular breaths if you need to, even if it's a little bit of touch and go. And then the more you practice and your body acclimates to the change in breathing, the faster and sooner those symptoms start to dissipate, if they're even experienced at all. Any other questions coming through in the chat?
No, that doesn't seem to be any. We'll just hold some space for a second to see if anyone else thinks of a question that they would like asked, but that kind of covers the pre-submitted questions also.
Wonderful. Well, yes, feel free to post any added questions in the chat. But ultimately, if you're interested in checking out our symptom quiz, you can scan the QR code that's on the screen right now, and it'll take you to that symptom quiz. Also, you can follow any of the resources on the screen as well, in case you're curious if Freespira is right for you or someone that you care for, or even, a potential patient of yours. You can also get more information by visiting our website, freespira.com/webinar to learn more. You can also contact us again directly by using any of the email addresses or phone numbers on your screen. And we'll be also of note, we'll be sure to share the recording of this webinar later today. So please look for that in your email at some point later today. And I just really want to thank everybody for joining and for taking the time to listen to me talk through a little bit about panic, PTSD, and Freespira and how it can help you. And just thank you again for being here. It takes a lot of courage to join a webinar like this and even just learn about perspective treatments. And so just remember that you're not alone. There is help and we're here to help you. So thank you again for your time.
We do have another.
Yep, there is another question that came through. Is there
Oh,
a
yay.
is there a specialist that works directly with a VA?
Good question. So all of our care specialists are trained to work with a variety of patient populations since we're working on device support. So no one specific specialist per se. We're all trained to work with the VA.
We do have a VA provider team, though, that can help assist with VA provider referrals.
We do.
Thank you, Linnell. Yes, yes, we do have a VA team for that too. Any other last questions kind of come through?
I don't see any.
So far, not so far.
Okay. Awesome. Well then,
If anyone is like me and 5 seconds after when we close the webinar, a question pops to your mind, we are always available to answer any questions that are unique to your situation, and would be happy to respond to any email. We can respond to a phone call or an SMS message, you know, whenever those kind of questions pop through your minds.
exactly. Wonderful. Well, thank you again, everybody, for joining today, and I hope the rest of everybody's day treats them well.
Natasha, thanks, Kate.
Yeah,
Thanks,
be
everyone.
well, everyone.
Thank you all.
Bye.
Bye.